All right, let's get into a really wild story today. It's all about what happens when the rules of employment get twisted in a way that just doesn't make any sense. It's a classic case of corporate policy colliding with plain old common sense.
So, let me ask you this. Could you get fired for something you had literally no way of knowing was even happening? That's really the core question here, and it's the exact situation we're going to unpack. It honestly sounds like something straight out of a workplace nightmare.
So this whole thing kicks off with an employee who takes a totally normal, well-deserved 3-week vacation. What he doesn't know, what he couldn't have known, is that this one trip would set off a chain reaction that would unbelievably cost him his job.
Now, to really get this, you have to picture the world back then. This was long before smartphones, before we were all tethered to our work emails 24/7. When you went on vacation, you were truly completely gone, disconnected. There was no checking in, no way for the office to send you an urgent ping. You were just out.
Okay, so fast forward 3 weeks. Our guy walks back into the office, probably thinking about the mountain of mail and messages waiting for him. He's totally ready to just dive back in and catch up, but he has no idea that the company he left behind doesn't even exist anymore.
The timing was just an absolute perfect storm. While he was completely off the grid, his company got bought out by a new one. Now, the new owners decided to issue new employment contracts to everybody, which is pretty standard. But here's the kicker. They gave everyone a deadline of just 2 weeks to sign, a deadline that came and went while he was still on vacation with no way of knowing about it.
And this is where it gets truly unbelievable. It's his first day back, he's at his desk sorting through emails, and his manager comes over. The manager tells him that because he hadn't signed the new contract, the one he's literally just finding out about, the company considered him to have resigned from his job. Quit. And then he was escorted out of the building.
So what do you do in a situation like that? I mean, it's so completely absurd. Naturally, he did what any of us would do. He went to see a lawyer. He had to know if this was even legal.
And the lawyer drops this bombshell on him. After looking at everything, the hard truth was that because he'd only been with the company for 14 months, he was legally entitled to just a single week's pay in severance. That was it. So the lawyer basically laid out the grim reality. He said, look, you could fight this, but it would cost you way more in legal fees than the 1 week's pay you'd get back. And even if you won, can you imagine walking back into that office? It would be incredibly hostile. But the most important piece of advice was about the new contract itself. You see, the company did technically offer him a chance to come back. All he had to do was sign that new contract. But when the lawyer looked at the terms, he pointed out that this wasn't really a job offer, it was something else entirely. Let's just break this down. The new offer would bring him back, but as a brand new hire. His 14 months of seniority, gone, wiped out completely. And on top of that, his pay would be cut by 10%. The lawyer probably explained that this is a classic case of constructive dismissal, where a company makes your job so much worse that they're basically forcing you to quit. His choice was clear. Take a demotion and a pay cut, or just walk away.
So officially, on paper, he had quit his job. And that single word created a whole new set of problems, especially when it came to getting financial support while he looked for a new job.
According to the rules, if you quit your job, you aren't eligible for unemployment benefits. But this is where the story takes a little turn for the better. When he went to the unemployment office and actually explained the whole ridiculous situation to a real person, they listened, they used common sense, and they granted him his benefits. So where did that leave him? Well, he was facing a really tough job market. So instead of trying to find a similar role, he decided to just leave that industry behind for good. He pivoted, retrained, and ended up building a successful new career for himself, all because of one of the most bizarre terminations you could possibly imagine.
And that really brings us to the big question here, doesn't it? This story is an extreme example, for sure, but it touches on something really important. In a world of constant mergers and acquisitions and fast-paced changes, what's a company's real responsibility to make sure its people are kept in the loop? It makes you wonder, when the rules are this broken, who should be the one to pay the price?